I'm going to throw out some numbers based on having looked over the attendance sheets of the last 30 years for about 5 minutes. So, rough estimate, but bear with me. Basically, in the mid-90s, attendance averaged around, say, 175. By the late aughts, early teens, it was around 75. And today, we are at about 30. Now, as someone who loves this church, addressing people who also love this church, that's a concerning trend line. It's a bit of a downer. I don't enjoy bringing up things that are a bit of a downer. In fact, we all prefer to avoid them until they can't be avoided and have blown up into a cause of panic, not just a downer, and nothing can be done. So, though this is a downer, we have lots of reasons for not panicking. We can change this trend line. And I want to talk about one way we are striving to do that. It's not the solution. Don't get me wrong. It's a small but meaningful step. And it has to do with this space, the sanctuary. I did a little research, and I learned that church builders multiply the number of people attending worship by anywhere from 7 to 20 in order to calculate the square footage needed in building a sanctuary. All right, so if we split the difference and say 15 and multiply that by the average attendance in the mid-90s, you will get a number quite close to the square footage of our current sanctuary. In other words, this sanctuary was a good fit for the church we were in the mid-90s. Now, if we want this trend line to change, we're going to need people to visit our church. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, what will they see when they visit this beautiful sanctuary? What they will see is that it was not built for who we are now, that it speaks to our past. Does it have to be that way? Is it possible we can utilize this beautiful space in a way that speaks to who we are now and what we love about this church? If we can do that, and other people can see it when they come in here, well, then they are more likely to want to be a part of that future. They are more likely to help us change that trend line. So, we have proposed a plan that we think will do that. And we hope to implement that plan on August 14. Now, we realize that is a little scary because that's coming up. After all, this is your spiritual home. And you've just been told that the furniture in your spiritual living room is going to be rearranged. So, if you have concerns, please let us know. Our commitment is to this church and its future, not to a particular plan or a particular date. Those things can be revised. That said, here's the plan. This architectural drawing more or less reflects how things look now, seating for about 220. If we remove about half of the pews, we still have seating for 80. What's more, if we remove half the pews, we've got a lot more room to work with, and we don't have to just arrange them in straight rows. We can arrange them in more of a semicircle. Rows emphasize authority. And we value community. Semicircles communicate community. This arrangement reflects that value. And so does bringing down the lectern to ground level instead of having it up above the rest of the people. And finally, instead of having our communion table and baptismal font cast off to the side, we can bring them to the center, which theologically is much more appropriate. We are a community gathered around Word and Sacrament. We think that this arrangement enables this sanctuary to speak to who we are becoming, not who we once were.